We are back. It's time for segment number 2 of this week's episode of Student of the Gun Radio. And you know what? Jared and I are so, I don't know, are we humble? Are we just involved in what we're doing? Because, folks, this is actually, if you're hip, if you've been with us since the beginning, you'd know that this is actually our 1-year anniversary, is it not, Jared?
Holy cow, I think it is.
Yeah, it was mid-March. Was it the third week? I'm pretty sure that it was the third week of March last year that we did our very first episode of Student of the Gun Radio. So congratulations, Jared. It's been a year.
And here we are, 1 year later.
I know. Who'd have thunk it?
We still have people listening to us.
Apparently, there's somebody out there listening.
At least one.
At least one person is on the treadmill right now listening to us. And if you're that guy, give me 10 more minutes.
Or girl.
That's right. If you're that girl, give me 10 more minutes. All right, folks, enough brevity, enough comedy jokes. It's time for part 2. And this time we're going to talk about fear, doubt, and hesitation. Fear, doubt, and hesitation. And those 3 terms, or that terminology, it was given to me. That little coin was put in my pocket by my friend Jay Gibson this week, and we're going to elaborate on that in just a moment. But first, we want to tell you that this segment of Student of the Gun Radio is brought to you by Crossbreed Holsters of Republic, Missouri, Keltec Weapons of Cocoa, Florida, and Colt Manufacturing, the makers of the LE 901 rifle. Check them out at Colt.com.
So speaking of Crossbreed, you know what I did this week?
Something holster related?
Yeah. I took my Crossbreed holster and I wiped it off with a leather wipe. and it looks brand new now.
That's crazy talk.
Minus the imprint from my gun. But
well, yeah.
That means I wear it.
Yeah, that is the awesome thing about buying the Crossbreed with the horsehide leather backing is, folks, after 2 weeks, there will be a perfect imprint of that gun, that firearm, in the backing of that, in the horsehide backing. And I know the same thing happens with regular cowhide leather, but the horsehide is way better.
It basically form fits to your body.
Yeah, there's no doubt about where should I put this thing on my body, because, and if you get in a hurry and you put it on wrong, what do you notice?
You notice that it's wrong.
It doesn't feel right. You're like, oh, it's too far forward, too far back, and you adjust it and you get it to that just right place. But we digress. Should we digress?
I think they want us to digress.
All right, but I digress. So anywho, I got a quote here from my good friend Jay Gibson, and if you don't know Jay, you should know Jay. Jay is he is one of the black belt senseis at Tactical Response. That's right, Sensei Jay. And I got a quote from Sensei Jay here. It says, "If fear, doubt, and hesitation have been bred into you, then being armed probably isn't going to help at all." And this comes from a recent YouTube video that it was about a 3 or 4 minute, maybe 5 minutes video that they put up on Tactical Responses, YouTube site. And Jay was talking about these people, all these bold internet warriors, these faceless internet commandos that get online and send in these anonymous messages about, oh, you're doing it wrong, you don't know this, and that's unsafe, and that's this, and that's that. And what I took away from that was actually that quote from Jay. And as we record this, I just heard it. It was this morning, right before we went on air. And I changed the show notes to incorporate it, because that thought process, that mentality plays in very, very well with something that we've talked about before, both in writing and on the radio show. But essentially, it's the slave mentality. It's the I'm not good enough mentality. At some point in time, you or someone like you or your friends or your relatives have been sold on the idea that you, as an individual, based on your current circumstance in life, are somehow not worthy. That you are somehow a second-class citizen, that you are in the peasant class. And you're like, oh, no, Paul, you're full of crap. You don't know what you're talking about. I do not think that I am a peasant. I do not think I am a second-class citizen. Okay. I hear you talking, but I'm going to ask you this. How many times have these words ever entered into a discussion or a conversation with your friends or peers? Is that legal? Are you allowed to own that? Is it okay? Can we do that? Now,
I was just going to say that not being allowed to use the stand your ground is being in a slave mind. So being in a slave mindset, that falls right in there.
Yeah, exactly. So, and folks, when I know you reasonable people out there and you're like, well, come on, man, there's things you're not that they're illegal. Well, yeah, there's a little a Latin terminology in law that's called malum in se. And a malum in se law is something that is on the face of it, prima facie, or is unlawful. It's not allowed by society. It doesn't need to be explained. No one had to tell you this. Because being someone who is not a criminal or who is not psychotic, someone who's not a mass murderer or what have you, doesn't have a mental problem. For instance, murder, the unlawful taking of human life, rape, robbery, theft, lying to people. These things, and maybe lying is not so much, but fraud. All right. Do I have to explain to you, would we have to sit down and I'd have to have a dialogue and conversation to you and explain to you that rape is illegal and against the law and it should not be allowed? No. How about murder? How about kidnapping? How about robbery? No. These things are all obvious. Malum in se. I mean, on the face of it, you know without explanation that that is wrong. Now, there's also another terminology called malum prohibitum. And malum prohibitum means that it's against the law because someone, somewhere, some group of people decided that it was going to be against the law, not because it's part of common law or natural law. For instance, speed limits, okay? If you drive through certain sections of the country, the speed limit is 70 miles an hour. Some sections it's 75. Some it's 55. Well, the speed limit is malum prohibitum because it varies. It's not always the same. Someone has to tell you, okay, that is not what. Same thing goes with the ownership of certain items. For instance, here, people who live in free America can have black rifles that have cosmetic features such as pistol grips or bayonet lugs or retractable stocks or what have you. And if you live in a slave state, you cannot have that. Now, your inability to own a rifle that has a detachable magazine or a pistol grip or what have you, that's not malum in se. That's not on the face of it. You know, people weren't born realizing that it's wrong to own a rifle that has a detachable magazine. That is somewhere someone has decided for you that you're not allowed, that is a prohibited item, okay? And where we're at now, say, what does that have to do with fear, doubt, and hesitation, Paul? Well, what happens is you get in a position where it's bred into you that you as a person are constantly wondering or worrying whether or not your behavior or your actions or your ownership of an item is lawful. And how do you get to that position in life? If you are there, if you are someone or you know someone who you're at a gun shop or you're at a gun show or you're hanging out at the range with your friends and they show you a new item, a new tool, a new gadget, a new whatever, and how many of you know a guy who the first thing out of his mouth is that legal? Are you allowed to have that? Well, when you throw that out there, when you say, is that legal? Are you allowed to have that? What you're de facto saying is that there is someone somewhere who has the authority to tell me that I am prohibited from possessing that item. Well, if it's not part of common law, how do you get to that point where you believe that you are somehow not allowed or you should not be allowed? And if your first reaction, great example, Jared and I, we did some material for the TV show here last season. Was it the last show last season with the Spikes, Havoc?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was season 4, the last episode of season 4. We featured a 37 millimeter smoke and flare launcher from Spikes Tactical. It's called the Havoc. It mounts underneath. It mounts to any rail system you have, but generally you put it on a black rifle. And what I said in that is, if your first reaction when you see that is that legal? You're already in the slave mentality. Well, no, I'm not a slave just because I'm trying to stay within the law. No, you're a slave because you think that you and your fellow man cannot be trusted to possess certain items made of aluminum or plastic or steel. You're a slave because your first reaction is, I need to seek permission. Now, some of you in this audience are probably children. Some of you in the audience are probably under age 18. And if you are under age 18, you are still in a position where you need to seek permission and, granted permission from your parents or authority figures. I got that. But if you're an adult and your first reaction is, am I allowed? Is that legal? Then you are living in a slave mentality. You had that fear, doubt, and hesitation bred into you. And a lot of you may be surprised, and you don't have to raise your hand, you don't have to say it out loud, but ask yourself that. Have you ever fallen into that trap, that mental trap, I better not do that? And it kind of goes back to what we did in the first segment about, if you get concealed carry insurance, will you get in trouble for that? We've had people say, well, you better not carry X because if you do, you'll get in trouble. Or you better not carry Y, or you better not purchase this because and we say, well, it's not illegal. Well, no, but still. Well, what are you afraid of? Are you afraid to be in charge? And I think most people are. I think most people don't understand what it means to be in charge of their own lives and their own communities. And I'm not talking about being bossy, although I will use that word. I'm allowed because I'm an American and I'm not going to have someone censor me. But we're talking about taking charge, and that requires responsibility on your part. But we wanted to lead this off because it is a valid question. And it doesn't matter how many guns you own. That's something we've talked about before is, people think that ownership of an object somehow denotes loyalty or allegiance. Well, they're a Democrat and they voted for Obama, but they're gun owners, so we have to listen to what they say. And my answer to that is bull crap. I don't have to listen to what you say because you're a gun owner. Oh, you bought an object, so now you have a valid opinion in the arena of ideas? I don't think so, Sparky. Because let's face it, if you are a proud liberal Democrat Obama voter and you own a gun, and Comrade Barry comes out tomorrow and says, I changed my mind, you people aren't allowed to own those, go turn them in. Are you going to do it? Well, are you? Ask your proud liberal gun owners that if tomorrow morning they banned or passed a law prohibiting the ownership of that tool, if they would get rid of them, sell them, or turn them in. And if they tell you yes, at least they're intellectually honest and because they are slaves. But if they tell you no, then you might want to ask them why. Because you've already declared your allegiance to the Messiah, but now you're going to say, well, I wouldn't do that. Well, why don't you get on the right team and get your head together? Get your head together and get on the right team. So ask yourself this. Are you living, or someone that you care about, living in a state of fear, doubt, and hesitation? Doesn't matter how many guns you own. If it's been bred into you to be subservient and that you are somehow a second-class citizen that can't be allowed to own certain things, then you've already lost. You've already lost. Jared, what do we got coming up next?
Let me look real quick here. Next, we've got...
Say it out loud. An army of me. An army of me. And you're like, well, what do you mean an army of me? An army of one. Remember, everybody remembers the army commercials. An army of one. Be an army of one, be all you can be, all that good jazz. Well, being an old veteran like I am, I have a lot of old veteran friends, both Marine Corps veterans and Army veterans and so forth. And you guys, all you Facebookers and Twitters and what have you, social mediaites, you probably the last several weeks or so have been, especially if you consider yourself a patriot and someone who loves the country, upset over these pictures that are coming out from these dimwits in uniform. Now, I know there's knuckleheads everywhere, and you're going to encounter them. But when you encounter people posing in ways that are disrespectful, unprofessional, and they're wearing the uniform of the United States of America, that's when we need to stop and say, hold it, we have a problem. Because if you're out on your own, you're dressed in whatever you're dressed as, and you're flipping off cameras or making stupid faces or what have you, the Constitution provides you the freedom to be as stupid as you want to be as long as it doesn't hurt someone else. And that's cool. Rock on. But when you don the uniform of the United States Armed Services, you put on an Army uniform or a Marine Corps uniform, Air Force, Navy, what have you. You put on one of those uniforms and then you go out in public and you post pictures of yourself performing or doing things that are unprofessional or unbefitting of a United States Marine.
They're just following their leader. Exactly.
Then we have a right as a nation to question that and say, what's going on here? And I was talking to, actually, I've got two good friends, Shane and Dick Brown. They're both former Marines. Shane's actually just getting ready to retire from Special Forces. And we talked about this. We talked about this little thing called military bearing. And a lot of my buddies out there, my veterans or current service members, how many times did a gunny sergeant or staff sergeant or somebody walk up to you, tap you on the shoulder, or put their knuckle in the back of your head and say, hey, losing your military bearing? Or let's not lose our military bearing. And what does that mean? It means straighten up and quit smoking and joking and acting like a knucklehead. Yeah, it is. It's no big deal.
Okay. I had to ask him a secret squirrel question.
Yeah, we had a secret squirrel question that Jared just sent me via the monitor. Dad, did you just let the cat out of the bag on something? No, I didn't let the cat out of the bag. But anyway, well, what am I talking about? Well, you probably know, but in case you don't know, there have been several pictures posted on Facebook of soldiers, members of the United States Army, and then there was one recently this week from the Air Force, where there was one of a woman who was hiding in her car from colors, and she takes a Facebook picture of herself with her cell phone and puts it up, and she says that she's colors. For those of you in the audience that don't know, is when they play the national anthem at 8 a.m. in the morning and they raise the flag. That's called colors. And when they take it down in the evening, it's called colors because they play the national anthem. And if you have any military bearing in your body, you stand up and you face the flag and you salute it if you're in uniform. And then you move on, for 2 minutes. You hold still for 2 minutes and then you move on with your day. Well, this girl put a picture of herself hiding in her car in a parking lot and basically saying how she wasn't going to get out and peace and whatever, all this garbage. Then there's another one that came out with these students that just graduated from basic training, and they're in their dress blue uniforms, and they're mugging for the camera with all kinds of goofy finger gestures and flipping off the camera and throwing up gang signs. And what makes it even worse is that their drill instructor, I think it was a master sergeant or a sergeant first class maybe, was right there in the middle of them. And people have said, that's not right. Well, let me address that. So all these photos, and there's one of another one that I thought was just, it really isn't really surprising because it was an Air Force picture, but it was like a bird colonel posing with some airmen doing selfie pics and stuff and that's a complete loss of military bearing and officer enlisted relations. But whatever, it's the Air Force. We got to give them a pass there. And go ahead and write me letters, Air Force people. You've got time. You mean you're sitting in an air-conditioned barracks in a swivel chair. Go ahead and write me a letter. So, well, here's what I wanted to talk about. I don't want to talk so much about the fact that that's happening, because stupid people are always going to be stupid people. And what I wanted to talk about is the reaction of you folks out there in the audience. And I know you're like, well, this is gun related. Oh, it's military related. You know, if you don't like it, go listen to an NPR show. But here's what I'm going to say. I know I'm an old guy, and I actually was in the military when it was, I don't know, still the military. Ronald Reagan was my first commander in chief. I'm very proud of that fact. And but today, people, they see these photos, citizens see these photos, and their reaction is, these people need to be disciplined. You know, that you can see who they are. They need to be court-martialed. They need to be brought up on charges. They need to be disciplined. They need to be this. They need to be that. Because we can't accept that in the military, and we should expect more from them. Well, here's the sad truth, folks, is those people, those selfie photo people, those gang signs people, those flipping off the camera while you're in uniform people, those people, that is exactly who the U.S. military and the Army is recruiting today. That mentality, and the reason I said an army of me, it's not an army of one, it's an army of me, what can you give me, what can I get out of the system? The army of selfish, self-involved, adolescent turds. And you're like, whoa, man, you're coming down kind of hard. I've been there. I've seen that. I've done that. I know what I'm talking about. What you got right now is you're recruiting people. And this goes way back to decades ago when I actually had midlife crisis early. I got out of the Marine Corps active duty. And people who know me know that I went back into the active reserve for a while. And one of the things that I did, and I thought I was going to enjoy, and I really ended up hating it, was I was a corporal, NCO, and I was working with a recruiter out of a recruiting station. And what I found, and this was in the 90s, the late 90s, very late 90s, that they were sending, somebody at the Department of Defense got the awesome idea that they needed to send all the military recruiters, Marine Corps, Army, Navy, everybody, to these professional sales schools and teach them professional sales techniques. And you're like, well, what's wrong with that? You're trying to sell something, right? Well, hang on. So the recruiter sits down with me and he tells me about what they taught him in school. And he has these benefit tags that they're like, you know, what do you, and the WIFM and the what's in it for me and what I got out of it was, so what we have to do now to get people into the military is we have to trick them. We have to, we're like, well, it's not us tricking. Like, it's like used car sales. We have to close the deal before they get out of the office. We have to make, and maybe I'm old, maybe I'm hardcore, maybe I'm stubborn, what have you. But my initial thought process was, if you got to trick somebody into joining the Army, trick them into joining the Navy, trick them into joining the Marine Corps, if you have to bait them, if you have to tell them what you're going to give them, and here's your benefits package, and here's all the free stuff we're going to give you, here's this, here's that. If that person is there, not because they're patriotic, not because they see it as their duty. Yes, there are some people in the United States of America that still understand what honor, duty, integrity, what those things mean. If they're not doing it because it's, you know, they view it as their duty, well, what good is that person to you? What good is a selfish, self-involved, me, what can I get for myself? What good does that do for the unit? What good does that do for the team? Well, it doesn't do any good. What you have and what you end up with is an entire military service that is filled with little more than civil servants in camouflage uniforms. You have office, and basically they're no different than office workers. They've got a uniform. They got a cool little camouflage uniform, but they're there to get as much out of it as they can get, not to give back, not to serve. but to get out. And you're like, well, we got to have numbers, Paul. Come on, there's numbers. They got recruiting numbers. They got to meet those numbers. Well, what are numbers? What good does it do you to recruit 100,000 selfish, self-involved turds that are more concerned with hiding from colors and taking pictures of themselves and posting them on Facebook? Wouldn't you be better off having 10,000 truly dedicated, hardcore, and motivated people? And what are you telling someone when you recruit them based upon what free stuff I can give you? Now, I'm going to give you one more, and I'll leave you with this thought. When I joined the Marine Corps back in the Middle Ages, back in the 80s, I went into the recruiter station, and if you guys have been in high school, you get out of high school, as long as you're not a doper or a criminal or an idiot, most people get contacted by the recruiters, Navy, Air Force, Army, all that. And I went through that when I was young. I got out, I graduated from high school. The day I graduated from high school, the Navy recruiter called my house. Hey, come down. Let's talk about your future and your career. And the Army guys too, and all that. And even back in the 80s, I remember the Army guy like, oh, this is our benefits package, and we'll give you this. And the Navy guy's like, we'll give you this, and you'll get this, and free college, and it'll be all this and stuff. And the Marine Corps recruiting office is always much smaller than the Navy's or the Army's. And I walked in there, and I knew I wanted to be a Marine since I was a little kid. And I sat down with the recruiter, and we talked a little bit. And he stopped me. He goes, all right. He goes, all these other guys, all these other recruiters, they're going to tell you what they can give you. They're going to tell you their benefits package. They're going to tell you all this free stuff that they're going to offer you if you join their service. He said, I'm not going to promise you anything. So what I want to know before we go one step further is, why should I recommend you to the Marine Corps? What do you bring to us? And, I was like 19 years old at the time, and I was kind of blown away. And I gave him an answer, but the answer doesn't really matter. That's not the point. What I said to him is immaterial. What it was is the idea or the attitude behind that. And you say, well, that's easy. Yeah, that's easy because he knew you wanted to be a Marine, so it didn't matter. So he could say that to you. But you can't say that to just any kid off the street. I don't want just any kid off the street in my Marine Corps. I don't want someone in my Marine Corps who just is there for a job. And I remember this. I'll tell you, all right, I lied to you guys. I said it was going to be the last thing. When I was in basic training, boot camp, I remember standing at attention online and the senior drill instructor walking up and down the squad bay. And he said, how many of you are here because you were promised, free college education? And, he kind of looked around. Nobody moved. And he said, how many are you here because you want to impress a girl, impress your girlfriend back at home? He said, how many of you are here because you just wanted a job and this seemed like a good job for you? And, we're just staring straight ahead. And he said, let me tell you what, you better get this in your head right now. And we'd only been there maybe a week. He said, if you are here for any other reason than you want to be a United States Marine, you made a mistake. He said, there are a lot easier jobs to get. There are easier ways to impress a girl. And he goes, there's a whole lot easier ways to get money for college. He said, if you're here for any other reason than you want to be a Marine, you better fix your head right now. You better get it in your head because everything you're about to go through it's not going to be worth it for cheap college or to impress a girl or to just have a job. He goes, you can go somewhere and get a job flipping burgers a lot easier than this. You better make sure that in your mind, this is what you want to do because you want to do it. And that's been, well, you do the math, but it's been almost 3 decades ago, and that has stuck with me ever since. And unfortunately, what makes my heart heavy is thinking that today, for a drill instructor to say that someone might think there was something wrong with that. That people might say, oh, you can't tell people that. You can't say to these young 18, 19-year-olds, they were promised free college. They were promised benefits. They were promised bonuses. They were promised all these things, and who are you to tell them that if they don't want to be, a Marine, a soldier, a sailor, that they need to not be there? And so when you see these things on Facebook, when you see these things on Twitter, whatever, you see news stories about people in uniform acting the fool, losing their military bearing, and you say, oh, they need to do something about that. Remember this. That is who they recruit. That's who they're looking for. That's what you get when you recruit to the me, I, selfish generation. So put that in your pipe and smoke it.
I had a few friends I had quite a few friends that joined the military after graduation. I graduated in 2008, and almost every single one of those friends they did their 4 years and they got out. And almost every one of them's reason was that there was people getting through there that didn't deserve it and that didn't make them feel safe. They didn't feel like those people had their back, and that inevitably leads to more troops dying easier, because these people that don't actually want to be there to serve their country and protect their fellow, their friends, their teammates, their unit, they're not doing that.
The civil servant mentality. Yeah. I'm here for a check.
Yeah.
I'm here to do as little as possible and to get as much out of it as I can. And we cannot survive as a nation, folks. We cannot survive as a nation if our military is filled with a bunch of I, me, selfish people. And that's what you've got right now.
It's kind of like a zoo, huh?
Yeah, kind of like a zoo. Well, which leads us to a story, and this comes to us from KCTV5.com. And if you live in Kansas City, Missouri, you already know this. Apparently, Kansas City, Missouri is not the safest place on planet Earth to live. And there's a lot of crime there. Well, the zoo in Kansas City, Missouri, they just had a free, no charge zoo day. And if you live in one of two counties in the surrounding area, if you're local, you can get into the zoo for free. And what it turned into a big Donnybrook, a melee, and the police had to be called, and shots were fired, and it was not a good situation. Well, a reporter from KCTV5 found the mayor. She went and interviewed the mayor, and she wanted to know what the mayor was going to do about it. And the mayor's name is, what is this, Sly? It's Sly. What's Sly's last name? Come on now. Find it for me. Jared, find Sly's last name for me.
All right, I'm looking.
Okay. The mayor's name is Sly. He's a bow tie wearing kind of guy. And
are you a poet and didn't even know it?
I didn't even know it. And so apparently also there's a plaza center in Kansas City that has also become a thug shooting gallery, or a shooting gallery for thugs. So we've got thugs in Kansas City. Got it?
Yeah, I forgot that there was you hit Command F and you can find something. So I forgot that existed. So that made my life a little easier. It's Mayor Sly James.
Mayor Sly James. And so what we've got is we have the thug element of Kansas City using the city as a shooting gallery. And the reporter gets to him and she asks him about it. And she wants to know what they're doing about it. And he gets annoyed. He gets really annoyed. And he tells her that he's not going to comment on it because these are isolated incidents. Now, where have we heard that before? So we got the thug element of Kansas City who's using the zoo and the plaza and anywhere else they want to congregate as a shooting gallery, playing shoot 'em up with the city. And the mayor gets all on the defensive, and he's like, you can't tell me that these are the same people doing this. You don't know that. And you don't know what and I'm like, dude, and to her credit, this lady keeps on him and he gets mad about it. But if you live up in Kansas City and you live up in Missouri, what do we know about people that want to make excuses for the criminal element? What have we been told during the entire war on how did we get ourselves into the 9/11 situation in America? Well, I'll tell you how we got ourselves into it. We were attacked here and there. We were attacked in Beirut. We were attacked at our embassies in Africa. We were attacked in Saudi Arabia. We were attacked, the USS Cole. We're attacked all over the place by Muslim extremists, Johnny Jihad. He's attacking us all over the world. And what happens after every single one of those incidents? Your government treats it as an isolated incident, as a one-time event, rather than realizing that we were already at war. They were at war with us. We just didn't realize we were at war with them. They treat it as a separate, isolated incident. And we've got Mayor Sly James here in Kansas City, Missouri. We got Sly James in Kansas City, Missouri, who's telling us that these are just isolated incidents. Are you buying that? Are you folks up there in Kansas City, are you buying that? Is Sly James, is his next move going to be to eliminate the Stand Your Ground laws and do the Criminal Empowerment or the Criminal Protection Act? Because Sly James looks an awful lot like Harold Mitchell from the last story we had. So, we thought that you guys would find that interesting. They're shooting up the place, and he's worried about it being an isolated incident. We don't want to just be calling these people out.
I like to teach you all the rules. I get to see them set in stone. I like it when you chain me to the bed. But they just
all right, thank you, Puddle of Mud, for our inspiring Slave State News music theme song.
We were feeling very generous this time. We gave one in each segment.
That's right. Well, this comes to us from the embattled state of Connecticut, of course. The Constitution state. Not really so much. And this is one of the – you guys know what's going on in Connecticut. We talked about it. There's a lot of stuff going on. They decided, with a stroke of a pen to make certain objects illegal. Certain cosmetic features on certain objects are now illegal. What do we know that is? That's malum prohibitum, right? Where we've just decided that object is no longer legal for you to have. Well, something that a lot of people, they're following all the black rifle stuff and the assault rifle this and assault and magazine ban that and all that stuff. Well, what kind of slipped under everyone else's radar, we get this from ccdl.us, and that's the Connecticut Citizens Defense League. Is that correct, Jared? Is it Connecticut Citizens Defense League? Yeah. The Connecticut Citizens Defense League Incorporated. And it says long gun permits coming April 1st, 2014. The last major part of Connecticut's unconstitutional gun laws takes effect on April 1st. And you're like, okay, it's a joke, right? It's haha, April Fools. No, they're actually serious. In order to purchase a long gun, and that is any rifle or any shotgun in Connecticut, and a single shot 20 gauge, a bolt action 22 rifle, or if it's, you have to not just be a citizen in good standing and say, well, I don't need an excuse or reason to buy a gun. I'm not a criminal. I'm a citizen. Screw you. No, that's not good enough. According to the CCDL, their explanation of the law is you will now be required to have one of the following items in order to be granted permission by the state to buy a long gun. You'll have to have a valid pistol permit issued from the state, a valid, get this, an eligibility certificate to purchase pistols or revolvers, or a valid eligibility certificate to purchase long guns. That's right. So now the peasants of Connecticut, from this point forward, before they purchase any gun, not just evil black assault rifles with pistol grips on them, because we know pistol grips make guns really dangerous. Not just that, any firearm at all, you must get permission. I'm sorry, if you have to go out and get an eligibility certificate from the state, that is seeking permission of the government to purchase a gun. Now, there are reasonable people out there that think, well, that's the way it always should be. We can't just be letting anybody who wants to buy a gun because, well, then some people wouldn't be able to buy them. Okay. I'm pretty sure that you're not supposed to have to ask permission from the state to exercise your rights, but I could be wrong. So, folks up there in Connecticut, it's still a toss up. We don't know what is going to happen up there. I don't know. I don't know what to say. On one hand, we feel a little bit bad, but on the other hand, we had people write in who've said, hey, this is what you get when you're reasonable. Remember this, reasonable people of the world. When you're reasonable and you vote for people who tell you, oh, yes, I have a capital D behind my name, but I would never vote to take your guns away because I'm a hunter. I'm a lifelong hunter and outdoorsman. It's not about hunting. It's not about being an outdoorsman. It's about liberty.
So he came out of his womb with guns and stuff.
And these politicians with D's behind their names that say, we just saw actually a little blurb that's from Bill Maher, that liberal dope smoking scumbag, Bill Maher, who wants to know, why don't Democrats just come out against the Second Amendment? Well, duh, Bill, you should know this. And he probably does know it. He's just being stupid. Because if liberal dope smoking hippie maggot type people with capital D's behind their name, if they come out and they tell you the truth about what's really in their evil, their sick black hearts, well, they won't win the elections because they know the majority of the people don't support what they support. They don't support those ideas. So what they do is they pacify it, and they go out with their Krieger double barrel over under that they borrowed from somebody, and they put on a pheasant hunting vest, and they get a picture of themselves and they show it to all these union sportsmen, and they're like, see, Representative Bill Dunn is a sportsman and a lifelong hunter and supports the Second Amendment. Just because he has a capital D behind his name doesn't mean you should be scared. So he gets elected, and then 3 months, 6 months, a year later, a bill comes onto his desk or by his vote, and it says, hey, let's ban evil black assault rifles. And Bill says, well, that's just reasonable. I say yes. And you stupid people, you naive people, you reasonable turkeys out there who can be swayed by this bull crap, get what you deserve. I know. So New York, Maryland, Connecticut, you get what you asked for. And what you asked for was this garbage to be shoved down your throats. And now you're upset about it. And I'm sorry, but it's a liberty test and it's a pass-fail. And so far, we're not passing. We're failing. Moving right along to, and we haven't had one of these for you in a while, but we've got a Rocky Mountain High update.
Colorado, Rocky Mountain High. I've seen it rain and fire in the sky.
That's another dear departed friend of ours, John Denver, who apparently wasn't down with the Second Amendment, but he was down with the Rocky Mountains. Now, what do we learn from Colorado? We know that Colorado is an embattled state, and now they did kick out a bunch of anti-gunners, and we haven't heard much from them lately, not since the recall elections and the recent old Evie there, when Evie Hudak, when she went ahead and resigned and allowed Lickenbottom to appoint her replacement. But the good news is her replacement is only temporary until the next election. So let's get out there and fix it, Colorado. But we've got a Colorado Rocky Mountain High update, a Durango gun club. This comes to us from the DurangoHerald.com. Durango Gun Club decided that what they were going to do is they were going to require all of the gun club members to be NRA members. And you're like, well, that's not right. I'm a gun owner. I'm a proud gun owner, but I'm not an NRA member, and that's baloney, and you shouldn't have to do that. Well, there's a reason why they did it, because NRA is the largest pro-Second Amendment organization. Whether or not they forgot to send you your free hat or your free keychain when you signed up that one time, and now you're mad at them, whether or not that happened, the fact is the NRA is the largest organization, and because they're the largest organization, they're able to do things for you and for gun owners like provide insurance. That's right. The NRA has insurance policies for shooting ranges and for individuals and gun-type people. They have these policies. Now, when you are if you're a club member, if you're a club like this, and all of your members are NRA members, well, what do they get? Well, then they are covered by your NRA insurance policies. And you're like, well, that's a good thing, right? Well, apparently it's not a good thing, because what happened at the Durango Gun Club is they're a nonprofit organization. And the title of this story, there's been a couple stories, but this is the latest one. It says, Gun Club blinks on NRA membership as city eviction threat hits its mark. Well, what it turned out, well, the bottom line of the story is that the gun club owned the facilities, but the city of Durango owned the property that it was located on. And when they threw the NRA in there, what do we know about liberal politicians? They hate the NRA. They hate them. They hate that they exist. You know, we got all these liberal Hollywood puke faces going on TV shows and giving magazine articles or interviews talking about how next time NRA members' kids need to be shot in a school thing, and let's see if they still support the Second Amendment. So the city told them, if you require your members to be NRA members, then we're going to evict you off of the property. And so the gun club blinked and relinquished its NRA membership requirement. And, you know, you could go either way on this story. My thinking is, number one, you're in a bad situation. They're in a bad situation when they have to ask the city for permission to have the range there, for one, because it's not private property, when they can't do what they want. But then you also need to ask yourself, well, now, what does the city have? What does the city of Durango have against the NRA? I think we already answered that question, is they're not big pro-Democrat, big government type people, so we can't allow that. We can't allow them to exist. But what would be their heartburn in having people who are members of the club be NRA members so they could also make use of the NRA insurance policies? Why would they not want that? I don't know. Ask yourself that question. But, yeah, we thought you'd appreciate it. We haven't touched on Colorado in a while, not because it's been really quiet or anything, just because there's been so much other stuff going on. Now, folks, that brings us right up to the top. We've got our plate is always so full that there's stuff that falls off. We're actually going to have to pull a few stories and talk about them next week. But we're coming to the end of this segment. Now, we've been here a year. We hope to be here another year, 2 years, 3 years, expanding. We started out 1 year ago. We had a grand total of one listener. And now we have, what, Jared? Over 500,000 downloads of the show. I think.
Yeah. We're
500, 600,000 downloads in the last year. And we appreciate you. It's you guys and gals, dudes and dudettes, sitting out there in the audience, listening to us each week, sending us letters, telling your friends, downloading the mobile app. You're the reason that we're still here after a year, and you're the reason that we'll be here for years to come.
Yeah, we get that. We get a lot of people telling us thank you for doing what we do, and really we couldn't do what we do without you guys that listen to us. So we appreciate you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate your support. We appreciate the fact that that you're out there in your cars, on the treadmill, walking your dog, whatever you're doing, listening to Student of the Gun Radio each and every week. We thank you guys who a lot of you have gotten onto the Patriot Fire Team and signed up, gotten that free information, the free report, to figure out a way to do something. Nobody should have to do it alone. And that basically is our main premise with the Patriot Fire Team is no patriot should have to stand alone. You shouldn't have to carry all the weight yourself. Everybody needs encouragement. Everybody needs assistance. Everybody needs affirmation, and that's what it's all about. And don't forget about studentofthegun.com. Check it out. You can read the articles. We've got lots of articles coming up this month. We have, obviously, the archives of the TV show. If you missed one, you're like, oh, man, I missed it and I can't find it. That's cool. You can go to studentofthegun.com, click on the archives and watch the old shows, watch the new shows, listen to the radio. We've got forums.studentofthegun.com. You can check that out. Talk with your friends. If you're a pro-gun person, get on there. Speaking of the app, there is a fan wall on the app. A lot of you guys have discovered this. And thank you to our Student of the Gun fans for showing us their level 2 lookalike guns. We appreciate that. That fan wall is for you guys. Use it as you see fit. Keep it above board. This is a family show. But folks, thanks for being there and, giving us a fantastic year. We're growing with your assistance and aid, and we're looking forward to doing another year. Jared, do you want to say anything to him before we sign off?
I already said my thanks. I just wanted to reiterate the thanks for listening, and thanks for all the appreciation that you showed about the Patriot Fire Team. I put a lot of work into that.
Yeah, Jared did. He was burning the midnight oil in that Patriot Fire Team thing together, so we got a lot more good stuff, constant information. And as I said before, don't just take my word for it. Read for yourself, learn, study, train, practice, be a student of the gun. Remember, you're a beginner once, but it's your duty to be a student for life.